Book club at the hotel bar. I checked in under a fake name and found her plot twist. I'm a man who makes stories fit. That's my job as a film editor. Trim the fat, tighten the rhythm, make sure the ending feels like it was inevitable all along. Real life hates that kind of order. It spills out of frame, forgets its lines, refuses to respect a cut. Which is how I ended up at the Elsinore Hotel on a wet Thursday night, wearing a blazer that didn't belong to me, and answering to a name that wasn't mine. My girlfriend Ivy said she had book club downtown. She never read before bed, not even subtitles, but fine people change. The invite she left open on her laptop said the meeting was in the Elsinore's mezzanine lounge. Book clubs don't usually happen under a chandelier the size of a small planet. She laughed when I teased her. A friend of a friend booked it, she said. It's near the train. Don't be suspicious just because it's pretty. Ivy is a creative director, good with color, even better with people. She can sell rain to a storm cloud. When she talks, strangers lean in like plants following light. At 6:30, she kissed my cheek and sprayed something that smelled like bitter orange and want. "Don't wait up," she said, voice breezy. "We're discussing a long one." The elevator swallowed her. I counted until the doors closed, 5 seconds, a cheap, stupid ritual, and then I watched our hallway fill with ordinary air again. At 8, I called the Elsinore, asked for a room under a name I hadn't used since college, Miles Keene, because the real me suddenly felt like a person you would ignore at a party. The clerk didn't blink. "We can do a late check-in, Mr. Keene," she said. "Corner King, City View." I told myself it was to surprise Ivy with a nightcap, a little drama to spice our routine. I told myself walking into her book club with a grin would be cute, that people would clap like an audience in a sitcom. I told myself I was a romantic. If you have to give yourself that kind of pep talk, you already know what story you're walking into. The Elsinore's lobby was a stage. High ceilings, velvet benches, bartenders who shook drinks like they were keeping time. The bar glowed a moody blue. The mezzanine was a balcony with a gold rail overlooking the whole beautiful mess. I saw Ivy before she saw me. She was at a small round table with 4 people and no books. Her laugh flew up to the chandelier and bounced back the way a promise sometimes does. Beside her sat a man in a gray suit who had the soft, amused posture of someone used to being told yes. His hand hovered near her elbow and then, like it had grown a mind, landed there. Not possessive. Practiced. I was halfway to them when I made a decision I didn't expect. I stopped at the bar instead, ordered a club soda with lime, and watched my life from a safe angle. Editors have to know when to stay in the booth. "Going to say hello?" a voice asked. She slid onto the stool beside me like she'd always belonged there. Tall, dark hair caught up in an undone knot, a black silk dress that looked like it could change its mind. She had the kind of face I'd call honest in an audition. You'd trust her even if you shouldn't. When I didn't answer right away, she tipped her chin toward the balcony. "To your girlfriend." My mouth went dry. "You know her." "I know of her," the woman said and sipped something clear that wasn't water. "I'm Lara." "Miles," I said before I could stop myself. It felt easier to be my lie with her. She looked at me sideways, as if we were co-conspirators who hadn't agreed on the terms yet. "Let me guess," she said. "You're here for the book club with no books." Ivy touched the man's wrist. He leaned in as if her words were a secret designed to flatter him and only him. It wasn't obscene. It was worse. It was ordinary. "I came because the story stopped making sense at home," I said. "You." She put her glass down gently, like she hated the part where sound broke. "Because the man in the gray suit is my husband," she said, and smiled. a small, neat thing that looked stitched on. I wasn't invited to tonight's discussion. Silence can be heavy. This one was. It was light, a rope tossed across a gap. I took it. "What's the plan?" I asked. "Not a scene," she said. "He lives for scenes. Best case, he's the hero. Worst case, he's the tragic lead. Either way, he gets the music. I thought I'd come, watch long enough to be certain, and then leave with my dignity." She paused and glanced at my empty ring finger. "You." "I booked a room," I confessed, and Lara's eyebrows climbed. "Don't worry, I'm not planning to wave a key card like a flag. I just needed a place to be where the world matched the feeling." "God," she said, sudden and warm, "that's exactly it." I shouldn't have done what I did next, but if you're waiting for me to apologize, you'll wait a while. I held out my hand. "Come see the view," I said. "We can be certain together, and then we can decide what kind of ending we want." Lara looked at the mezzanine one more time. Ivy's hand had migrated to the gray suit's shoulder, a friendly touch that, if framed correctly, could sell the wrong product. Lara turned back to me. She took my hand. Upstairs, the hallway smelled faintly of lemon polish and money. My room was exactly what it needed to be. Elegant, anonymous, with windows that held the city like a snow globe you didn't want to shake. Lara went straight to the glass and pressed her fingertips there, as if she could feel the river through it. "We got engaged 2 floors down," she said, with a thin smile. "He made a joke about tying the knot where they tie the curtains." I laughed. I used to admire his shamelessness. We stood close without planning it. The city threw light on her cheekbone, the soft inside of her wrist. I have a rule against being moved by beautiful people when I'm vulnerable. The rule failed on contact. "Tell me your real name," she said, not turning. "Daniel," I said. "Yours." "Lara is real," she said. "The rest I'm still editing." We watched our reflections watch each other, and it felt like stepping into a picture you couldn't control and didn't need to. From below, the piano in the lounge found something slow and complicated. It didn't feel like an accident. Lara spoke first. "I don't want revenge," she said, and the way the words sat in her mouth told me it had tempted her for months. "I want a clean break. I want my heart back in one piece, even if I have to glue it myself." "I want to stop being made to feel small," I said. "I want to feel wanted on purpose." We both startled at our own honesty and then laughed, the kind of laugh that makes a closed room friendly. Lara leaned her shoulder against mine. It wasn't a kiss. It was worse and better. Touch can be moral. It can also simply be true. "I'm not good at doing nothing," she said. "If I go downstairs, I'll say something clever and poisonous, and he'll counter with something wounded and grand, and then we'll be famous to a room of strangers. I don't want that story anymore." "Stay," I said, "with me. We can write a different first page." She looked at me, and I saw the moment she let go of something politely heavy. "All right," she said simply. We didn't undress. We took off our armor, shoes, jackets, the brave half-smiles we'd been wearing like helmets. We sat on the edge of the bed like it was a bench in a park where nobody knew us. Lara tucked one leg under her, and the hem of her dress slipped to show a line of skin that had no business being as eloquent as it was. I'm not proud of how my breath changed. I'm proud I didn't pretend it didn't. "Can I ask you something?" she said. "Do you want me because of them, or do you want me because of me?" "Both," I said, because lying would have been unkind. "But the second part is getting louder." Her smile went soft. "Same." We didn't rush. We let the closeness build like heat from a radiator, slow, thorough, a comfort you notice only when it's inside you. Her hand found my wrist and rested there, thumb stroking once, twice like punctuation. I leaned in without thinking and kissed her forehead, then her temple, then the corner of her mouth. She turned her face to mine and we kissed properly. No performance, no audience, no hurry. It's easy to lie with a kiss. It's also easy to tell the truth. Hers was the latter. She tasted like lime and refusal. When she reached up and threaded her fingers into the hair at the back of my neck, I forgot my name entirely, fake or real. My hands settled at her waist, respectful of the silk, of the skin beneath, of the reason we were there. We broke apart to breathe and laughed again because breathing felt like a shared secret. Lara's cheeks were flushed, not from guilt but from being alive. "Tell me where you like to be touched," she whispered, and it didn't feel dirty. It felt like we were adults with bodies we didn't have to apologize for. "Here," I said, guiding her hand to my chest, where my heart had been working overtime without pay. "And here," I added, taking her palm and laying it against my jaw. "I like being seen." Her eyes softened. "Good," she said. "I'm good at seeing." We stayed inside that sweetness. We kissed with the slow greed of people who know they could devour and choose instead to savor. When her dress strap slipped, I lifted it back into place, and she kissed me for that, longer than the gesture deserved or exactly as long as it did. My blazer slid to the floor. Her hair came loose with a little sigh. At some point we lay back, my arm under her leg draped over mine, the city a quiet witness. If you're waiting for me to say we crossed a line we couldn't uncross, you'll be disappointed or relieved, depending on what you came for. We didn't. What we did do felt like something a priest wouldn't scold us over if he'd suffered what we had. We let our mouths and hands say what our lives had been refusing to hear. "You're wanted. You're charming. You matter." Her phone lit up on the nightstand, a little square of insistence. She didn't look. Mine buzzed in my pocket like a trapped fly. I ignored it. The room kept us. When the music downstairs changed to something brighter, Lara rolled onto her back and stared at the ceiling. "He'll come up," she said, voice calm. "He always wants dessert after he's stolen an appetizer." "Then we'll be gone," I said. "Or we'll be here and not perform," she countered. We settled on a note in the middle, literal. Lara pulled the hotel stationery toward her and wrote, in a hand that looked like it had won awards, "We know. We're done. Please leave the keys with the front desk." She signed her name and left the rest of the page blank for me. I wrote, "Thank you for proving what we already feared. I wish you the kind of honesty you keep avoiding. D." We slid the note under the door to the corridor, half in, half out, a flag of surrender or warning depending on how you read. Then we took the elevator down together, fingers brushing, not quite holding. The lobby had thinned to the brave and the bored. The bartender nodded at us like we were part of a shift change. On the sidewalk, the rain had softened to a mist. Lara tilted her face up into it and closed her eyes. She looked young and relieved and dangerous. "What happens now?" I asked. "We don't audition for their forgiveness," she said. "We don't punish ourselves to prove we're better. We drink tea that tastes like actual plants. We sleep. We get good at being new." I wanted to kiss her again. I wanted to ask for her number in a way that didn't make what we'd done feel cheap. Instead, I did the only grown-up thing that came to mind. "Breakfast," I said. "Tomorrow, somewhere with bad coffee and decent eggs." Her grin made the rain irrelevant. "There's a diner 2 blocks from my place with a waitress who calls everyone baby," she said. "9." "9," I said, and when we hugged, it wasn't an apology. It was a promise to show up in the morning. I watched her go until a cab swallowed her like a curtain close, then went back upstairs to a room that suddenly looked like a set after the shoot, still pretty, but honest about its job. On my way, I passed the gray-suited husband in the elevator lobby, bow tie half untied, charm chipping. He stared at me like I was a line he didn't remember reading in rehearsal. "Do I know you?" he asked. "You will," I said and didn't stop. In my room, I sat on the edge of the bed and let my phone deliver the backlog of my old life. Ivy, 3 messages that started casual and ended with a frantic "Where are you?" A photo from our apartment table of a half-eaten salad, as if evidence of lettuce could rewrite a script. A voicemail with 100 sorries and 2 long pauses. I typed slowly, "I saw you. I'm not making a scene. I'm making a decision. I'll pick up my things tomorrow. We can talk with a mediator next week." I hit send and felt something I recognized from work, when the cut is right and everyone in the room hears it. It isn't joy. It's relief with its hair down. I slept poorly and well. In the morning, I left the key on the desk and walked out into a day that had the decency to be ordinary. At the diner, Lara was already in a booth, hair damp, eyes bright, a paperback on the table between the sugar and the ketchup. "You brought a book to book club," I said, and she laughed so loudly the waitress looked up and smiled. We didn't rehash. We made plans like normal people who hadn't stopped being themselves just because someone they loved had lost the plot. We decided to try dinner next week, after lawyers and locks and hard calls. We agreed to be kind to whatever showed up between now and then. When we left, the waitress called, "See you, Bobbies," and it felt unreasonably good to belong to that plural. Later, Ivy texted something long about confusion and temptation and how nothing happened, which is one of those words that tries to make intention small. I wished her health and clarity. I put my phone on Do Not Disturb and went to the studio to work on a director's cut that had been driving me crazy for a month. I found a rhythm I'd been missing. The scene landed. The music knew what to do. At sunset, I stood on my roof and watched the city begin its nightly audition. Somewhere out there, Lara was probably on her balcony drinking tea that tasted like actual plants. I let the air touch my throat and thought about the way her thumb had rested on my wrist like a spell that didn't need magic to work. This isn't a revenge story. It's not even a redemption story. It's a pivot, from being chosen to choosing, from being fed a script to ad-libbing with someone who listens. A week from now, there will be lawyers and boxes and passwords to change. Tonight, there is the clean ache of a new page and the memory of a kiss that didn't ask me to be smaller to fit inside it. Tomorrow at 9, there will be bad coffee and decent eggs, and a woman who keeps her promises. And if there's anything I've learned in rooms without windows and edits with too many notes, it's that the most surprising endings are the ones where nobody performs and everyone breathes. We'll see if we can make a life that fits. I'm a man who makes stories fit. This time, I'm letting the story make me.